You know, after all my years in the Amazon, there are a few creatures that just stick with you. And this is one of them. So today, we're going to open up our field notes and talk about a real living dinosaur, the black caiman. This is a predator that has absolutely mastered its world in some incredible ways. And really, everything we've seen out there in the field, it all boils down to this one big question. I mean, the black caiman's entire life is basically the answer to it. It's this amazing story of survival against all odds, a total masterclass on how to be a predator. All right, so let's jump right in. We're going to follow its journey, and we're starting right where the caiman does, as a fragile little egg hidden away in a nest on a riverbank deep in the flooded forest. Okay, first up, Amazon's apex predator. To really get the black caiman, you gotta understand its place at the very, very top of the food chain. So, what's an apex predator? Well, it's an animal at the absolute top of the food chain, and as an adult, it has zero natural predators. Nothing hunts it. And that's key, because a grown-up black caiman fears nothing. It's not just a hunter, it's what we call a keystone species. Basically, the whole ecosystem kind of hinges on it. But here's the thing. It definitely doesn't start out that way. Not even close. Our notes from the field show that this whole journey begins with just incredible vulnerability. So at the end of the dry season, the female builds this big mound of dirt and plants. And what we've seen out there is that this is a total race against the clock. This nest, it's basically a natural incubator. And those eggs, somewhere between 30 and 65 of them, they need about 6 weeks to develop. The timing has to be perfect, so they hatch right when the rainy season starts. That's when the whole forest floods, giving the little guys plenty of food and places to hide. And this is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. You have to picture it. These are the same jaws that can crush a turtle shell like it's nothing. But when she hears her babies chirping inside the eggs, she uses those jaws with the delicacy of, I don't know, a surgeon. She'll gently crack the shells to help her young get out. It's just unbelievable.
But even with mom right there, it's a brutal numbers game. The second those little caimans hatch, they're on the menu for, well, pretty much everything. Coetes, big rodents, snakes, birds, you name it. That's why they lay so many eggs. It's a tough world out there. And for them, survival is literally about strength in numbers.
Okay, so if they make it past that incredibly dangerous start, then the real transformation begins. This is where we get the formidable juvenile. When they're young, they have these really vibrant yellowish-white bands on their sides. And that's not just for looks. It's a genius piece of camouflage. We see it all the time in the field. That pattern breaks up their body outline perfectly in the sunlight filtering through the water. It makes them super hard to spot, which is obviously a huge advantage when you're still small enough to be somebody else's lunch. And you can see the transformation right here in their diet. It's just incredible. They start out small, right? Eating snails, little fish, insects. But as they get bigger, their menu gets a serious upgrade. We're talking a shift from crustaceans to things like tapirs, deer, even other massive predators like anacondas. And yes, there have even been cases of them taking on jaguars. The change is just staggering. And that brings us to this number, 750 kilograms. Let that sink in. That's over 1,600 pounds. We're talking about the really big old males here. This staggering size makes them the biggest predator in the entire Amazon. And get this, the largest member of the whole alligator family, period. So all that growth leads to one thing, becoming the absolute king of the waters. Once they're fully grown, nothing, and I mean nothing, messes with them. And just to put that in perspective, look at this. They are in a completely different league. Sure, a jaguar is a terrifying predator on land, no doubt. But in the water, the adult black caiman is the undisputed champion. It's not even a contest. It is the Amazon's top predator, full stop. So how do they hunt? Well, a lot of our observations are at night, and what you see is a strategy that's been perfected for millions of years. First, that dark skin makes them pretty much invisible in the water after sunset. Then, it's all about patience. They'll just lie there, totally still, with only their eyes and nostrils sticking out of the water. They wait for an animal to get a drink, and then bam! They just explode from the water with unbelievable power. And their diet just proves how powerful they are. That bite force, strong enough to shatter a river turtle's shell. They're a huge problem for capybaras, which are a major food source. And they're one of the only creatures that can successfully hunt a full-grown anaconda. Pretty much, if you're an animal that needs to get near the water, you're on the menu. But, our long-term research shows something else. Even an apex predator like this isn't safe from everything. They face one threat that's bigger than any other predator, and that threat is us. The history of this species is really a cautionary tale. Back in the 70s, they were hunted almost to extinction for their skin, for the leather trade. It was a disaster. Now, thanks to some serious conservation work, their populations are bouncing back, which is fantastic news. But the threat has changed. It's not so much hunting anymore. The real danger now is habitat destruction.
And we actually saw what happens when they're gone. When caiman numbers plummeted, the whole ecosystem went haywire. Piranha and capybara populations just exploded. With no top predator to keep them in check, they started causing real problems for local farms and fishing. It's probably the best proof you could ask for that the black caiman is a vital keystone species. The whole system depends on them.
So that brings us to the big question at the end of all this. The black caiman survived the leather trade, which shows just how resilient they are. But can they survive us? As the Amazon rainforest disappears, the survival of its greatest predator really depends on one thing: our ability to protect its home. The future of this incredible animal is, quite literally, in our hands.